Alright everybody, I hope you're doing well. Today is especially a special video for a very old sword. It's in fact the oldest sword in my collection by a long shot. And I wanted to show it to you and share it with you. And kind of give you an idea for something I've had going on, a project for this for quite a while. So I'll show the Koshirae fittings that I've acquired so far, and give an idea of what I'm going to be doing with the Koshirae for this sword, and show you the actual sword. You've already seen it in close-ups, but I'll start with the Koshirae because the sword itself, the katana's in a Shirisaya. So I had acquired this wakizashi tsuka specifically for the Fuchi and Koshirae fittings because they have very delicate lion dogs picked out in gold, with a Nihonto sort of stippled background, and I thought these were just the most beautiful Fuchi and Koshirae. The Manuki on this is a T-bowl, which I will be not using, and I will have to either create or have somebody create a longer handle because the tang is longer than what fits in here. So, or that did, because this is the sword is not a wakizashi, it's a katana. This is a handle for a wakizashi, and the Makugi-yana is too far forward because the sword's Makugi fits about right there instead of here. So I'll just be using the Fuchi and the Koshirae and not using the rest. Maybe I'll fit a different set to this and have it re-wrapped, but I need to use these. So the next thing is the Kozuka for the Kogatana, and it is a set of shishi playing with peony flowers, again with the Nihonto background. You saw it in the close-ups, but I just thought this was such a beautiful knife handle. And this, of course, is the side knife that fits on the saya, and then there's a hole in the tsuba for it to fit through. So that, going along with the shishi dog theme, will be the Kozuka Kogatana for this sword. The third piece is the tsuba, and it is a iron tsuba, very simple, with a set of copper fittings in the ha side and then the muni side to protect the sword from clanking forward and backwards. This was beat on to fit a different sword. I can't remember what the term for this is, but you can see the opening, the Nakaga-ana was smacked in with a peen to fit a different Nakago. This side of the tsuba features a little stream with some grass and some pebbles done up in gold with the hull for your Kozuka. And then this side has a number of different metals grafted onto this iron. It's got gold inlay, copper, and shakudo, which is this dark here. It's a blue. This is like a blue color on this one. There's shakudo, little rocks, copper, grass, gold shishi dog with a gold peony. So a lot of different, and there's some copper grass there. It's just a lot of different metals for this one tsuba. I thought it was just a beautiful handle, and again it fits the lion dog theme. And finally I have a set of Manuki here, which are shishi. Oh, wow, that was lucky. It landed right on my t-shirt. I have a t-shirt holding this, so that was good. All right. So these are lion dogs, and they are shakudo alloy with gold plating or gold foil on them. Inlaid. I know I can't show you a good close-up of this because it's going to focus on my face, but these are quite detailed. The one looking over its shoulder right here is like got the biggest set of teeth. You can see that. I just thought it was just a beautiful set of Manuki. So that's the Manuki, and then the Sagio cord I got is a gold and yellow with brown spots, and there's a reason for it. I will be I don't have the Ito for it yet, but it will be a blood red color. With the Ito is the handle wrapping, so the handle will be a red color. I have the Samigawa, I just don't have it here. It's the it's a leopard ray Samigawa, so the ray skin that is used will be a leopard print color. It's a naturally occurring thing in leopard rays that they look like leopard spots, but it's kind of a mid to dark gray color. So it'll be that Samigawa wrap with the red Ito and this gold with brown spotted Sagio cord, and I'm going to have the saya made with a green and orange and peach color speckling like the leaves on a fall tree. So I want this sword to be themed like dogs playing in the fall with the flowers and the leaves, because fall is my favorite time of year. The early fall, just after summer when it's still warm, that's my favorite time of year when the trees turn colors. We're going through that right now, and I just love driving. I live out in the middle of nowhere, so I see beautiful multicolored trees everywhere, and I just wanted to have a sword with those colors. So the handle will be red, the saya will be green and orange and peach color speckled in different shadings, and I'll be very specific with whoever makes it, or if I make it, I'll be very particular about how I have it colored. And the golden Sagio cord with the bits of dark branches peeking through the yellow leaves. So I just thought it would be a beautiful Koshirae to put together for this katana. Now this is a shorter katana. This is like 23.1 inches. It's like 23 1/8 inch. So it's right on the bottom end of katana length. And so I'm going to kind of show you the sword. I'm going to read some information here. I got a whole notebook because of how old this sword is. I will do most of the talking with the Shirisaya on, because I don't want to breathe all over this sword too much, but I will show it. This Shirisaya is like the oldest one I've ever seen. It's ridiculously old. It's coming apart slightly down here at what I would call the ricasso area on a western sword, and then it's a much darker wood, and there's a lot more dents and fingerprints that I can see, just like places where people have held it. And mysteriously there's like indentations from fingers. So this is and it's like not perfectly fitted anymore. You can tell it's shifted and warped, and this is just an old Shirisaya, and it explains a lot because the blade is so old. It's an ancient sword. So this sword was made by Sukehiro, who is a master in the Soshu school of sword making. Now the blade, the Nakago, is signed Soshu Ju Sukehiro, which is the signature matching to the third generation swordsmith Sukehiro from the Soshu school. And the original Sukehiro was a disciple of Yoshihiro, who was one of the founders of the Soshu school, and I think he was either the student of or a contemporary of um, Masamune, who is the greatest Japanese swordsmith ever of all time. He's the legend, he's the GOAT. And he was instrumental in founding the Soshu school of sword making. So this sword has a lot of lineage, even coming down to when it was made in the mid 1430s. The smith Sukehiro that created this sword in the 1430s was active between 1429 and 1444. He lived in two different places, in two different provinces. He lived part of his life in Kamakura, and the other part of his life in Sagami province, which are like next door to each other. He was 1430s puts him, the active period of his sword making, 1429 to 1444, put him between the Aikyo era and the Kaikitsu era during the Muromachi period. So this sword predates the Onin War by about 30 years. The Onin War is the big precursor to the Sengoku Jidai, which is the big warring states period in Japan that lasts for like hundreds of years, and lots of clans are destroyed and lots of people rise and fall to power. It's a big epic saga of warfare that takes place in Japan in the 1500s. But this was even older than the Onin War, which preceded that conflict. So I'm going to read off some stats about this sword, and then I'll tell you a little bit of history outside of Japan of what was going on in the world, and I'm going to explain how old this sword is. So the sword weighs, I'm going to use grams here because this is what I have for the weight measurement. I never weighed it myself, so it's 475 grams in weight. The cutting edge is 23 and an eighth inch. So from here to there, it's like 23 inches. It has a Chiji Midari hamon with tobiyaki. So if you notice in the close-ups, there's lots of like spots where the hamon is separated from itself. Kind of like how a flame, when it flickers, some of it comes up off and ignites by itself. And it has of course I didn't write it down, I can't remember the term, a very straight grain wood pattern in the folding. So a lot of these swords will have really crazy wood grains. The hata, I believe it's, forgive me if I'm wrong, the hata is very straight and very symmetrical, very even down the blade, but it makes the hamon far more pronounced and flame-like. And I just think it's, of all my katana, or wakizashis and katana, this has the most beautiful hamon. I do have a naginata that has a very impressive hamon, but this one takes a cake. There's even places where the clay tempering is present on the spine of the sword, the muni. And I tried to show that in a close-up where I was showing the spine of the sword. So typically you have the softer core iron running, and it's sandwiched around by a really high carbon steel, and then there's clay that's added, and it's quenched in water, and the water quenching with the thin clay area is the hamon. Well, there's I can't remember the word for it. I don't think it's tobiyaki, but it's because the tobiyaki is anyways, forgive me for forgetting my Japanese. There is the hamon present on the back of the sword, So it's very interesting. I'm not sure why. I was looking at it and I went, is this an issue with the polish? And it's just like, no, it's bits of hamon, whatever it's called when it's on the spine. It's like all the way down the blade. Um, and I'll show that. I'll try and show that to you. So the hamon curves down, and then it comes back on the kisaki, and then it's all the way down on the muni. Muni is the back of the sword, and the ha is the blade, the cutting edge. So, to give an idea of just how old this sword is, this sword was made around the time of Joan of Arc's trial, where she was burned at the stake. Also, it's contemporary with the rise of Vlad the Impaler as Lord of Wallachia in Eastern Europe. Of course, he's the great hero and villain who fought and defeated a lot of the Ottoman forces and kind of stabilized the push of Islam into Europe, and was kind of the protectorate of Christianity in the East. So this sword was made around the time when he became the Lord of Wallachia. So it was made around when Dracula was the Lord. And it was also made during the time of the Ming Dynasty, still enacting its isolationist policy. And it was made just before the Incan Empire was formed in Peru. So just to, I'm gonna throw out some more dates here of important figures, so I impress upon you just how old this sword is, because this is an ancient sword. It was made 2 decades before the development of the printing press by Johannes Gutenberg. It was 2 decades before Rome fell in the East, so the Eastern Roman Empire, before it was destroyed by the Ottomans. This sword was still around 2 decades before then. It was produced over 2 decades before the birth of Leonardo da Vinci, 2 decades before the start of the Renaissance period, 3 decades before the birth of Machiavelli, 4 decades before the births of Michelangelo, Raphael, and Martin Luther. This was made 100 years ago, roughly, before the birth of William Shakespeare, and 100 years ago, 100 years before the burning of Kamakura during the Sengoku Jidai war period. So roughly the same era where the smith lived and worked and traveled around in Kamakura and Sagami. Kamakura was burnt to the ground during the Sengoku Jidai, 100 years roughly after this sword was produced. So just to reiterate how old this sword is, this was made in the 1430's, signed Soshu Ju Sukehiro, 3rd generation smith of the Soshu school. And I'm going to head and take the sword out and show you the blade, and show you again the hamon, just the absolutely beautiful hamon. The Soshu smiths are known for their really impressive hamon and their really finely made blades. So now this was polished, and you can tell because of how narrow it is. It's not necessarily narrow, but it's not wide. But it's still got a hell of a lot of hamon left over after all these years. It features a silver hibaki. You can just see the beauty of that hamon. And again, I'll try and show the spine here so you can see some of this, whatever it's called, the hamon that's like on the back of a sword here in the Muni. Probably won't be able to pick it up, but you might be able to. You see how it's there, and then it's there. Not exactly sure what the reasoning is for hardening the back of the sword. Maybe there was a understanding that they were going to, maybe at the time there was a idea that the swordsman might defend with the Muni, so maybe somebody requested a harder back edge. But yeah, the hamon just comes up and around. So, I don't like to take this blade out a lot. This is such an old sword, I'm kind of scared to expose it to the air almost. Yeah, that's my oldest sword. A sword that was produced 100 years before the birth of Shakespeare. So, I hope you enjoyed this video of this very special katana. Again, it's not a big katana. It is, has been polished quite a bit, but it's still very present. The blade is very lively. It definitely is an old girl, and I'm very lucky to have it. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will be posting more swords. I'll probably do a few French swords again before I do another Nihonto. So I definitely have to show my naginata at some point. Yeah, that's this sword made by Sukehiro of the Soshu school in the 1430's. And again, the Koshirae, this is the Shirisaya. Koshirae fittings will be dogs playing in the fall. So reds, oranges, golds, browns, those colors will be on the fittings. And I will be using these Koshirae pieces that I showed you to make a display for this sword. So that's this very ancient sword. Let me just real quick Google. I'll do some math here on a calculator just to know. Let me see, of course, just to know how old, because I never really did the math on how old this sword is here. So this sword is 592 years old if we go with the year 1430. So on the low end of the Sukehiro's work, this would be almost 600 years old at this point. So for a 600-year-old sword, it's doing pretty well. And I'm going to make sure that it goes another, at least 100. So thanks for watching. I hope you have a great day. And if you enjoy swords, let me know in the comments. I'll talk to you later. Bye.